Hi, welcome to the Pickleball Victoria Child Safe Policy Club Implementation Support webinar. My name's Greta Connell and I work here at Leisure Networks. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional lands I'm on today, the lands of the Wadawurrung people. I thank them and respect their continuing culture and the contribution that they make to the life of this region where I've lived and worked for the past 12 years. I extend my respects to the lands on which you're tuning into this webinar, and I pay respects to elders past and present. Leisure Networks is a trusted not-for-profit community organisation that for over 3 decades has pursued a vision of capable, healthy people and connecting people with community. We are committed to creating spaces where everyone belongs and can thrive. Our values of inclusion, connection and innovation shape everything we do and drive our continued success in delivering on funded projects that make a real difference in people's lives. Of particular relevance, we provide club support on topics such as strategic planning, volunteering and fair access, just to name a few. But if clubs wanted more specific or extensive support, we are able to offer fee-for-service support and can assist the club in looking for funding to support that. Pickleball Victoria, with the support of Leisure Networks, have created a new child safe policy and implementation plan for clubs. This policy is designed to ensure children and young people who participate in Pickleball Victoria or club activities have a safe and happy experience and that appropriate systems are in place to prevent harm or abuse from occurring within clubs or programs. The implementation plan was created to assist clubs to endorse and adopt the policy, breaking down the 11 standards and highlighting the minimum requirements needed to ensure that the safeguarding of children and young people at your club. So just an overview of the standards. There are 11 child safe standards in Victoria, and the child safe standards aim to promote the safety of children, prevent child abuse and ensure effective processes are in place to respond to and report all allegations of child abuse. The Child Safe Standards began in Victoria in January 2016, and after learning so much from the Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sex abuse between 2013 and 2017, Victoria now has 11 Child Safe Standards, which came into effect in 2022. The Child Safe Standards work by driving changes in culture, embedding child safety in everyday thinking and practices at your club, provide a minimum standard of child safety. Organisations working with children, and by definition children means people under 18 years old, they must comply with the standards. So comply means that your club must have things in place to show that your club follows and meets each standard. Also by highlighting that we all have a role in keeping children safe from abuse. For the purpose of this webinar, I'll focus on the implementation steps in which your pickleball club can make specific change to ensure compliance. However, I will give a brief overview of the child safe standards first, just to provide some context. Please know there are plenty of great resources from the Commission for Children and Young People, Vic Sport, Read the Play, and Pickleball Victoria, which provide greater detail around the child safe standards. I'll include links at the end of this presentation. Ultimately, it's about creating a child-safe culture and leadership that is child-focused. Kids and families will keep playing if they feel safe and included. Safeguarding children and young people in your club is a draw card. I'm just going to step through the 11 standards over this slide and the next slide. There are lots of good resources, like I've mentioned, that do break them down. So I'll just go through just with a little brief overview. To set the scene for then our implementation strategy after these couple of slides. So standard 1 is creating a culturally safe environment for Aboriginal children and young people. And this was a new standard which came into effect in 2022. Standard 2 is around child safety and wellbeing, having that embedded in organisational leadership, governance and culture. Standard 3, children and young people are empowered about their rights. They participate in decisions affecting them and are taken seriously. Standard 4, Families and communities are informed and involved. Standard 5, equity is upheld and diverse needs respected in policy and in practice. And Standard 6, people working with children and young people are suitable and supported. Standard 7 focuses on the processes for complaints and concerns are child-focused. Standard 8, staff and volunteers are equipped with the knowledge, skills and awareness through education and training, and that is ongoing. Standard 9 is around physical and online environments that promote safety and well-being while minimising the risk of harm. Standard 10, implementation of the child safe standards is regularly reviewed and improved, so continuously trying to get better. And Standard 11, policies and procedures document how the organisation, the club, is safe for children and young people. We have created a step-by-step implementation plan to assist pickleball clubs in Victoria to meet the minimum requirements. In implementing the standards, the club has the opportunity to reflect on their efforts to date and continue to build on their capacity to keep children free from harm and abuse. The first step is to create your club's child safe policy. If your club currently has one, you may wish to review it. Pickleball Victoria now have a child safe policy template on their website, which clubs can access to edit and utilise. There's no need to create a new policy. You can tweak this one that Pickleball Victoria have created as a template and update it with your club's details. This is also a great opportunity to create or update the club code of conduct. And the code of conduct is a document that explains to staff and volunteers how to behave around children and what is not okay. A part of this step relates to Standard 1, which is around creating a cultural safe environment for Aboriginal children and young people. While the Pickleball Victoria Child Safe Policy includes this, in a more practical sense, there are some great resources on the Commission for Children and Young People website on understanding cultural safety and printouts that you can display at your facility or website, documents that you can put on your website. So establishing a child safe club for Aboriginal children requires an ongoing commitment by everyone at the club to reflect on their attitudes and practices, challenge their biases and assumptions, actively contribute to building an anti-racist and inclusive place for Aboriginal children. So, for example, taking complaints about racism seriously and responding to them thoroughly shows racism will not be tolerated at your club. Cultural safety is all about respect, understanding and inclusion, so everyone can benefit from creating a cultural safe environment. Once the policy has been adapted to your club, it's time to endorse and adopt the policy. I'd recommend sharing it with the committee for the review prior to the AGM or meeting where you present it, so that feedback can be given prior to the endorsement. Once this has been endorsed, include child safety as a standing agenda item at all committee meetings, and this will help build the club's safety culture over time and increase the awareness of the club's ongoing commitment to child safety. Promote that the club has adopted the policy. This is something that the club should feel really proud of. Ensure there is a copy of the child safe policy housed on the club's website and promote that this new policy is available and being implemented. And you can promote this to your community via the best communication channels that you have, whether it's social media, newsletter, emails, whatever that may be. Ensure a public commitment to the cultural safety of Aboriginal children is made available and displayed for public access. So the next is to appoint a child safety officer or member protection information officer. It's important that children and families know who this person is and how best to contact them. Ensure that their contact details are easy to find, for example, that they're on the club website. Play by the Rules offer free member protection information officer training, where there's a link on the screen and I can also attach it, which is a really useful resource for the club volunteer in this role. There are also many helpful promotional resources on this website. So a little bit more about the Child Safety Officer role. They will have a comprehensive understanding of the policy and code of conduct, and is essentially an education role to promote awareness at the club and be a voice for the children and young people where required. They should be the first point of contact for members who have concerns about a child or young person within the club, and they may provide advice and support to assist the member with making a report. On the flip side to that, they should be a really approachable person in the case of a child or young person wishing to speak to a trusted adult about a child abuse concern. It's really important that there are clear and transparent reporting processes for both the child safety officer and the people who may be reporting a concern. Include the volunteers' contact details on a really open platform such as the website. So the fifth step is to update the volunteer recruitment and induction process. This involves all committee members and volunteers who will likely have contact with children, for example, coaches, team coordinators. They must have a Working with Children check. The volunteer Working with Children check card is free. And there are a few people exempt from having a Working with Children check, such as those registered with Victorian Institute of Teaching, members of Victoria Police and the Australian Federal Police. The club will undertake at least 2 thorough reference checks prior to engaging any personnel in the role, and ensure that that is noted in the position description when promoting the role, just to be really open, and it will help draw the right person to the job. Ensure all new volunteers have access to the Child Safe policy and know where to find it. Good recruitment practices and robust screening processes play a vital role in preventing harm to children. The 6th step in this implementation plan is creating or updating the reporting and complaints policy. Ensure that this process is easy to find and easy to read. It's child-focused. It explains what staff and volunteers must do, how to manage different complaints, what to do if policies or the code of conduct are not followed, how to make a complaint, for example, to authorities or to the police, handle complaints properly and in a culturally safe way, and then promoting this policy to your members. Ensure that the Child Safety Officer or Member Protection Information Officer are really clear on their reporting channels. Within the Child Safe policy, there's an action template available to assist clubs to break down the steps required to ensure the standards are being complied with. There are a few examples included, as you can see on the screen, which is just to help the clubs get started. So this is essentially putting the implementation plan we've just gone through into action with timelines and who's responsible.
Hi, my name is Viv Daniels and I'm the president of the Drysdale Kipling Springs Pickleball Club. We as a committee thought that offering pickleball to children and young people was a good way of helping pickleball grow in our area. We had a workshop with Pickleball Victoria and Leisure Networks, which gave us an insight into what we as a club in the state of Victoria needed to do. We established a subcommittee made up of members and led by a child safe champion. And the objective was to determine the feasibility of bringing children and young people into our club, and then to develop a draft strategy and policy on how we might do it. Consideration was given to how we might compete with the many other sports that children play, and the time and space available for children and young people to play pickleball when we as a club have a healthy adult membership and not a lot of court space. And also that we as a club would have to manage a juniors program. Did we actually want to do that? We also considered what help schools in the area might provide us. Could they in fact take over introducing pickleball to juniors and we wouldn't have to? But eventually the main committee signed off on going forward. The subcommittee built a policy framework by working through the Victorian Government 11 Child Safe Standards. For example, all members completing the Vic Sport online education module, the building of a suite of documents such as ensuring Working with Children checks were obtained and registered, complaints registers created, We updated our code of conduct for both children and young people, but to also take into account adults needing to be aware of their responsibilities around children, and looking at photography policies for children and young people. All work by the subcommittee was signed off by the main committee. One of the standards require an education and communication approach across membership. So once we built the policies, we uploaded them onto the website, sent them to each member, discussed it at each of our playing sessions, talked about our social functions, and it's added to the information provided to new members. Once this was done, we advertised across the schools, local papers and via members for Come and Try Days. We held 2 quite successful Come and Try Days, and now we have a juniors membership at what we hope is a reasonable price. We also offered to assist schools to introduce pickleball into their curriculum. It's early days at this stage, but we believe pickleball is a sport that children and young people will take up, as it's easy to learn, it's cheap, low impact, and it's inclusive. So if you require any assistance, don't hesitate to get into contact with either our club or with Pickleball Victoria and give it a go. Thanks.
As I mentioned throughout the presentation, there are lots of really good resources available. So I've got the Vic Sport link on the screen, the Commission for Children and Young People, and also there's access to external services such as Lifeline, Beyond Blue, 1-800-RESPECT, which are also just handy to have and included in different promotional resources that you have for people in the club. Please also know that Pickleball Victoria are a really great resource for clubs, and they've got information housed on their website. So that brings this webinar to an end. I really hope that you found it helpful and just to help get your club kick-started on making it a more child-safe place and complying with the standard requirements. Please reach out to either Pickleball Victoria or Leisure Networks if you have any questions, and we'd all be happy to support. Thank you very much.